Alright, in this video we'll see how to create a newsletter plugin. So what do I mean by that? By the end of the page you will have a form that will allow you to have their username and the email address. Once you click on subscribe, you will get a message saying that thanks subscribed, and these data which you have sent through the form will be saved into a custom table where you can see this is the recently added, and in the front end, in the back end, once you are logged in, you will be able to see the recently added data. So these are the subscribed user for you from the website through this form. Now the feature that we have is we are able to search from the table, you can see, and you are able to sort. If I click on the ID, you will see from the data would sort from 1 2 3 ascending order. The same way, if I click it again, it will be descending order. The same sorting option is available for name and for email and for the subscribe date. And you can see there is a pagination as well. So if the row reaches more than 3, you could see it in the another page. Cool. These are the features. Now to show this plugin, to show this form, we have to use a shortcode. So this is the shortcode. Once we enter the shortcode, we will be able to see this form. Let me show you what are the things that we are going to see. We are going to see how to create a custom table. As I have already shown, you have to enter the name and the email. Once you click on subscribe, these data gets stored into a table called newsletter. And the second thing, we are going to see how to create top level menu and the list table. So you see newsletter is actually a top level menu. Once I click on it, the relevant list table shows up. So these are the WordPress default table which the WordPress by default gives you, and we are going to customize a class called a WP list table. So to get this default table design from the WordPress, and along with that we'll see how to make a search on this particular table. This table is actually the data that we see over here. We can search it. If I search for UI Monk and click on search, you will see we have two data with the name UI Monk, and we'll see how to make use of this pagination. As of now, once there are more than 3 rows, there would be a pagination, and then we'll see how to create sorting. So when sorting, I just want you to notice the URL. When I click on ID, you'll see the URL gets turned to order by ID and order descending order. The same way, if I click name, you'll see the order by is name now and the order is ascending order. The same way, if I click email, the order by is email and the order is ascending order. So we'll take a deep dive on how to get these values and insert it in our SQL query and fetch the data accordingly. The same way, if I click on search, and for the search I need to write something, let's say Vishal, and click on search, you'll see the the URL parameter s is added along with the value. And again, if we go for the pagination, you would see the URL parameter paged PAGED equal to 2. If there is more than 2 values, let's say pagination 1 is there. So we'll see how to make use of this URL parameter and ask or submit a query to the SQL and fetch the data accordingly. In case if you wish to learn to be a WordPress developer in the future and you don't know where to start, I have a complete playlist for it. So get into this URL where you'll find the WordPress developer roadmap. So I would recommend you to start from HTML, then go to the CSS, then go to the JavaScript, then go to the PHP MySQL, then WooCommerce, then theme development of WordPress, then plugin development. So I won't recommend you to start from plugin development, because if you don't understand CSS, JavaScript and HTML, then there is no use of following the tutorial. So to follow, what I'll do is each these are the courses. Each course has this HTML has 56 lessons in it, and this CSS has 104 lessons in it, and this JavaScript has 101 lessons in it. So these are not just the lessons, but actually a real world projects. So here over here with the JavaScript, what are the things that we are going to learn? We'll see how to create a random password maker, WYSIWYG text editor. We'll see how to create star rating widget. We'll see how to drag and drop sorting a table, and weather forecast app, grocery shopping list app. So these are real world projects. So what you can do is you can simply visit this website and enroll for the course, and each course has some list of lessons. So this has 100 lessons, this has 20 lessons, this has 8 lessons, this has 17 lessons. And once you complete those lessons, you would have confidence of a mid-level developer. And after that, following the WordPress development playlist, it's like a piece of cake for you. Just as I have shown you for the JavaScript, we have the same thing for the CSS, a real world project. Once you complete all the lessons, you can use these code as a portfolio. And also for HTML, we have a complete series where we would be creating from the scratch and then get back to the PHP to HTML and then get back to the PHP to Bootstrap. So I would recommend you, if you are an absolute beginner in web development, take the course. As of now it's free, but as day passes I'm planning to make it a paid course. And without wasting time, let's get started. For the first thing that we need to do is, let's just deactivate the current plugin so that it doesn't create a problem while creating a plugin. So first thing, you need to create a folder in the plugins folder. This is my local setup WordPress, and inside that we need to get into the WP content. Then inside we have plugins, and inside plugins we need to create our new folder. Let me just say UI Monk newsletter. So it's recommended to use we would be creating a new file over here, so it's recommended to have the same file name as your folder name, and it's going to be a PHP. And each plugin should have a metadata. So you see the description, the version, the author, and then the name. We need to give the metadata for that. The metadata will be in the form of the comment, PHP comment. So this is enough to show your description, your plugin name in this particular page. So after that, once I activate, I want to create a new table in the SQL. So for that we have a register activation hook. We'll do that. Now we have a register activation hook. Once this hook runs, your SQL query will run. So what we'll do is, we need the prefix for the table. You see, WordPress has a default prefix WP underscore. So to get this prefix and to interact with the database, WordPress gives you a global object which is WPDB. With this WPDB you can run, insert, update whatever query you want over here. So we have a WPDB global variable, and then we need to set a table. So I want to set the name of the table. So let's call the name, let's call the table name as newsletter 2, and then I'm defining a query, SQL query, where we will have ID as a column, name as a column, email as a column, and the created as a column, and I'm defining ID as a primary key. So this is the character set for the database to work internally, to work on sorting. What it uses a character set. By default it's UTF-8 or ASCII. We don't have to worry about it. And to run the custom table query, WordPress gives you a function called delta db. So inside delta db we need to pass the argument which has SQL query, and to run the delta query, WordPress needs to call a file where your delta db is defined. So I'm saying this is a PHP function. I need one file only once per page for plugin activation. We need to call this URL, and this is the place where your delta db is stored. Now if I click on activate plugin, you'll see the database would get populated. If I click activate, and if I get into the database, if I get into the database, and if I search for the new table name, you'll see the table is created with the help of this register activation hook. Now what we need to do, now we need to create a shortcode. To create a shortcode, we have a function called add shortcode. So once add shortcode is called, we want to call a relevant function that runs your HTML. Now I have a shortcode, so this is the add shortcode. This is the shortcode that we would be using so that this shortcode will be converted into an HTML. So what HTML? We have a form. Inside form we have input type text with the name attribute, input type email with email attribute, and a submit button with, it doesn't have any name. And then this is a message for displaying the error message or the success message. Now we are writing it inside the PHP function, which is output buffer. So these HTML are stored as a temporary memory, and this output buffer get clean will display what is stored in the temporary memory. So this is these are the PHP function, we don't have to worry about it. And this is for the AJAX. So we need a beautification for this HTML, so I'll add the CSS just above the form. Now over here just above the form we have a CSS, we don't have to worry about it. Then after that we need to create a script. So once I click on subscribe, it need to send the name and the email to a file. I'll do that with the help of JavaScript. So we have a JavaScript where the self calling function is called. We get the form with the help of ID. You can see it's getting highlighted. We'll get the div where we need that we would be showing the success message or error message, which is over here. And then when I click on the submit, I have made a event listener. So this is form has a event listener submit. So once I click on it, by default if you click on a button, the page would get refreshed. To stop that, we have e.prevent default. Now what we are doing is we get the form data. So form has two values, name and email. I'll get that value and convert it into a form data. So form data usually appends your text field into the query string with the help of post. Query string is nothing but, which I have shown you. If I click, you'll see this is the query string, and this is the key and this is the pair. So right now the key is actually name and the value is actually whatever you type on this input field. So this is the query string which I was talking about. The form data usually creates this kind of query string where after your slug, this is actually your slug, after your slug you will have name and whatever value you type on the input field, and then you have email, then again whatever value type in the value of email. So this is the form data that does it. So then after that what I need is I want to add an action attribute. Since we know this is episode number 31, we have seen AJAX, how WordPress deals with AJAX. So we need to send a action attribute also. Action is a keyword, so that WordPress understands that which hook need to call when receiving these AJAX data. I'll repeat again. WordPress needs to know which hook to call when to get these values with the help of AJAX. Now, so for that this action is required. So these three we are sending: name, email and the action. And where we are sending it? We are sending it to the AJAX URL. So over on the top you will see AJAX URL, which is nothing but admin-ajax.php, where you need to send your AJAX URL. We're sending it. Once we send those values, we'll send in the form of post variable, and over here the body is nothing but the form data. You'll see we are sending the body, which is the query string which I have said, and then after that we'll be receiving some values, response, and if the response is success, then display this message. If the response is error, then display the error text. Now these submission AJAX is getting submitted somewhere, so we have the key which is action. So based on this action we need to create a function. So as said, this is the hook wp-ajax and then you'll see this is actually the action. Now let me just show you in a single screen. So this action, as you see, it is getting highlighted on the hook, which is wp underscore ajax. So what I'm saying is, these name and this query string can be accessed through this function, and one is for the logged in user and one is for the non-logged in user. These are two separate hooks. Now on this function we'll access the name attribute and the email attribute and store it into the database. Let's do that. Now, as said, in this function we will receive the name and email, and we'll use the insert operation with the help of wpdb. We are passing the name, we are passing the email, and we are passing the currently saved time, which is current time. And then we are sending, if it is success, then success. If it is false, so if it is error, then we need to display this message. So how do we know whether the query has run properly, or has not run properly? It's through the insert id. Once you have used the insert operation, this insert will return a insert id. If there is an insert id, then that means data has been inserted properly. If there is no insert id, then there is an error. Then we'll be showing this message with the WordPress helper function, which is wp underscore send underscore JSON error. So these two are actually the hero of this video. This is a new function, WordPress helper function, that we have covered today. Based on that, you receive the text. Consider this is the page I have created, and I have pasted the shortcode. So once I refresh it, you should see the HTML. So if I make this UImonk and the username, email, if I click on subscribe, if it is success, then we'll get the message from the wp underscore send JSON, wp send JSON success, and these would be accessed on this success parameter, and based on that, your div with id sn msg will have the text only if there is a success. Then if there is a failure, you will see, to make this fail, what we can do is we can simply rename the table so that it could not find anything. Now let's try one more time, and if I make some entry, it should not allow me to do that because dv insert failed. So that means this is working. Now if I click on the browse, the data would get saved previously when it was success. Now let me add some more data so that we can work on the pagination. gmail.com, something that doesn't work. Dot need to be there, or else it won't allow you to save. Data is getting saved through AJAX. uimonk @gmail.com. Click on subscribe. I have mistakenly removed the code. I have added again, and you see it's getting saved. Shall@gmail.com. Superman @gmail.com. Batman So now we have some set of rows on the table. Now we need to show a top level menu. To show a top level menu, we have a hook admin menu. So this hook will take care of the menus, top level menus. So this is the title, so this is the page name, this is the title, this is the default keyword for the author to give access to this particular URL, so to this particular menu, and then this is the slug which you see in the URL, and this is the relevant function. When I click on the menu, top level menu, this should get executed. It will just say hello, and then we have an icon, and this is the priority. The greater the priority, at the end your function will get executed. So if I click on newsletter, you'll just see hello. Now you need to understand one thing. We are going to use the default WordPress table. So for that, WordPress itself has a new class, which is, it's not a new class, it actually has a class called list table. So we need to modify that. So let's do that in this. And once we modify, we need to create the object of the class and override the function called display and prepare item, so that we can alter the table which is provided by WordPress. Now let me just first call the class and then I'll create an object of it. Now I'm saying, just like we have done for the delta dv, we need to know where the class is actually defined. So this is a place where the class is actually defined, includes, this is the class, and I have extended the class with my custom class. Now I need to create the object of the custom class. So while creating, what I need you to notice is I'm surrounding this. So first of all, I have created an object reference which is $tvl, and I'm overriding the prepare item on this particular custom class, and then I'm surrounding the search box and the table. The table would have header, the body, which is actually the row from the table, database table, and then the search bar. To see the search bar, this is a code for that search bar. We are giving search and a unique name, and then the pagination, and then the sorting. So these are only made possible with the help of this display function. And how are we going to modify the header? How are we going to modify the row that need to be displayed in as a HTML tables body? We need to override the prepare item class, which we will be doing it inside this class. Let's do that. Now let's first define the column name first. So to define column name, this is the parent class, which actually has a class defined. We need to override them. So for that, get column is the function that we need to override. So on the left hand side, this are actually the column name from the table. On the right hand side, the actual column name that we want to be displayed on this page. And then we need to show which of the column need to be sorted by default. On page load, which column need to be sorted. We need to mention that with the help of get sortable table. It's get sortable column. This is also again going to return an array, and whichever is true, that means only that column will be sorted on page load. Rest of them won't be sorted. Now we need to pass these two values to the header variable which this class has. So we need to override this. Just below here, this is the variable which has three parameters: the column name and whether it's nullable or not, and then we have the sortable. Now we need to display the inner content. The inner content actually is stored in a variable called items. Actually this should come outside, my bad. These need to be inside prepare item, which you see over here. So you need to call a function called prepare item, where you need to define the header. Now what else we need? We need the database connection with the help of WPDB object, and then we have the table name, which is already listed at the top over here. So we have access to this. Then we need to configure the pagination items, like how many page should be there, how many data per page. I'm saying three rows per page, and to know the current pagination value, which we can have access. Previously we have seen something like it has paged equal to 1. So to get this value, current value, we have the function. So we have the function get num, and then we need this offset value for the query. I'll explain when there is a query. As of now, you don't have to worry about it. And during the intro, I have shown you there where you will find a query string as yes, where you will find query string order by, where you will find query string order. So if nothing is set, then make it blank, or else get the value which is actually in the query string. The same way, if nothing is set for the order ID, then make it order. Again, the same way, if nothing is set for the order, then make it descending order. Or else, if you find anything, then get the value from the URL and place it in the place of search order by, and order by is going to be the column name and order is going to be the either ascending or either descending. So those value are simply, if it is blank, then display the ID. If this is blank, then make this descending order. What if there are data in the query string URL parameter? So when there is a URL parameter and if it matches from this array, so this array is actually the column name. So if this matches, then let the default be. If that doesn't matches, then the default be ID. If that doesn't matches any of the ascending or descending, then the default should be descending. So there would be two set of query. If the search is there, there is one set of query, and if the search is not there, then there is another set of query. So when there is a search, we in the SQL query where you will find percentage and in between the text that you will be doing. If I search for Vishal, then here this is how it will be appended: Vishal, Vishal. So that's what I'm saying there in the like variable. So if there is something in the search parameter, then get that value and surround it with percentage and percentage. Then we need to know the total number of count of the on that particular table. So if I search for Vishal and if it has 3, then we need to get the count with the help of this query. Select all and give it a count from the table where, as said, percentage Vishal percentage, where this will have Vishal and this is again will have Vishal on name column and on email column. So this will give you the count so that we can have a pagination, and then the same way we will be passing to this so that we can retrieve the value and store it into a row. So as you see, this is actually the row where all the row would be saved. Now for that, set all from the table where again, as we have noticed $Vishal dollar on name or $Vishal dollar on email. Let the sorting be based on the URL parameter that we have received. Either if it's blank, it is going to be ID. If it's not ID, if it's not blank, then based on the URL parameter, we will be getting either ID, name, email, or created at. The same for the email. Then after that, limit. We are limiting only how many values that we need. So per page we have defined 3. Limit only 3 values starting from the offset. So what offset is, let me just explain you in detail. If suppose we have 3 page, 1 2 3 4 5, we have 5 pages. First page has 3 value, second page has first 6 value, then we have 9, then we have 12. So this is the first page, this is the second page, third and fourth. So from 1 to 3, that will be stored on the first page. These are the IDs, and then on the second page we will have 4 to 6, 4 5 6, that's what I mean. And then on the fifth page we will have 7 to 9. This is the primary key ID. I just want to make note of it. And then we have 10 to 12, 10 11 and 12. So when I say I just want 3 values starting from the current pagination, so these are the values where it would be paged equal to 1. If I say paged equal to 1, then there will be value of from 1 to 3. If I say paged equal to 3, then we would be having the next 3 values starting from 7, 8 and 9. So this is what the offset does. So over here we have made a calculation. Let me just show you the calculation. The offset, how the offset is calculated. If the offset, what we need the offset. So the current page I am in 3 minus 1, and then multiply it by the per page, which is 3. Actually I am in the current page 3, which is 3 minus 1 is 2, and then multiply it with 3, which is 6. So on the 3 we want the value from 6 from 6, sorry, after 6, 7, 8 and 9. So these 3 values will be fetched based on this limit. I hope I have made it clear. If that doesn't ring a bell, I would recommend you to rewind this and watch again. We have already covered these features individually in the previous video. So over here I have combined all the search, all the sorting and all the pagination value. That's why it's looking a little complicated. Now this is with search. So what I want another code when there is no search. That is also going to be easy. Now there would be no this like operator in the query. That's the only difference that we have. Everything else is same. The offset is same, the order is same, and the table name, everything is same. To make the pagination work, we need to again give some values. What are the total values, and then how many per page? I have set it to 3. And what are the total number of pages? That we will get it dividing the total number of page by the per page. The total, if suppose I have 9 rows and per page is 3, 9 divided by 3 is, which is actually 3. So we would be having 3 pages. So the total is required, the total would be modified, this total value would be modified, you see, based on the search values that you have provided. Once we make a search, if suppose we have 9 rows and after filtering we just got 2 rows, then the total value is 2. That's what it meant. And to make the pagination work, we need to set this function, which is set pagination arguments, and that's it. This should work. Now if I make a refresh, click on nay, and now one more thing that is missing, which is we have stored all the values in the items. Now we want to display the items one by one. So for that, just after the prepared item is done, we have another function to override. So we'll be having the item which we have stored over here, this items, and we can display individual column, or simply I can put this as row. I want to display rows with the column name as an associative array. So you see, we are getting the value in the form of associative array. That's the reason we have made this as an associative array. If there is no value, then just make it blank. So if it reaches more than 3, then there is a pagination. So that means this works. And if I search for Vishal, then the count is now 2. We see the count is now 2. Then based on that, the value got fetched with the help of this if statement. I hope the scope of this video is done. Thank you so much for listening. Meet you tomorrow with another hook.